Meta stock. Today we talk about Meta stock. Brand new video to react to here. Facebook. Who's right about Meta stock? A little bull bear debate here in this video here today. I want to share my opinion about Meta as well as a shareholder of this company and react to this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. As always, thank you every single person that subscribed to this channel. Now, there's a thought process around Meta, right? And it said this stock's come back a lot from the bottom when it was 80 something a share, right? This stock is up 50+% from the bottom. It's up 52% from where it started out in November. So there's a thought process now out there right now that maybe don't buy Meta stock right now because, you know, it might go back down or something like that, right? This is the same exact argument folks made with Netflix stock. Netflix stock bottomed back in June, actually. This one bottomed at 160 something a share, right? And then it kind of double bottomed right around July once again, kind of in that 170, 160 range. And going into this earnings, right, the stock had basically about doubled from there. Going into this earnings, people said, you know, it's going to have to pull back. It's going to have to go down after earnings. Netflix reported extremely disappointing, huge miss on EPS. Revenue that was basically in line. They did beat when it came to new additions, but the earnings wasn't a great report. And what happened with the stock? Up another 7% here today. And so going into Facebook earnings, Meta earnings, I should say, there's a lot of people under this assumption, and it's a false assumption, that Meta is going to go down. And all I can say is if it does go down, that is the biggest gift ever. That's all I can say about that, because this stock is already the biggest gift ever at $136. If it's any lower, like, that's just basically stealing money at this point in time. Now, in terms of me personally, I am in the public count. I own 1,820 shares so far of Meta. We're up about $24,000, $25,000 on this stock so far. And my plan is to take this well over 2,000 shares. In this particular account, I don't want to stop buying Meta anytime soon. Anything under 200 is like a gimme situation with Meta. Under 150 is a holy smokes, this ain't no joker. So I'm not done acquiring the stock anytime soon. It's a great value. It's one of the best risk rewards, in my opinion, in the entire stock market. No doubt about it, okay? Now, tomorrow's a huge day. If you didn't know, in the Patreon portfolio, we do the new buys tomorrow. So if you want access to see exactly what stocks I'm buying tomorrow, check out the pinned comment down there. That will be to join us on Patreon. It's $10. You ain't gonna spend a better $10 out there in the world than on that Patreon every month. Okay, yeah. What are you gonna do? Spend it on Netflix? Come on, man. $10 for that Patreon. It's a holy smokes, ain't no jokers deal. And see the new stocks I'm buying and see the portfolio, what I got in there. Appreciate everybody that supports the channel on Patreon. Thank you so much. And let's jump into this.
Switzerland today, ad mogul Martin Sorrell and one of Facebook's earliest investors, Jim Breyer, taking very different stances on where shares of Meta are going this year. Take a listen.
Calm down, Melissa.
I think you'll see Meta come back extremely strongly this year on the back of Reels and Business Messenger.
Yep.
To deal with the competition from
Reels, Business Messenger, 100%. And WhatsApp is the most disrespected element of their business that no one even looks at, and they have no conception or clue how big WhatsApp's going to be in terms of that business model and how many people are now using WhatsApp. Oh my gosh. I mean, WhatsApp itself, in my opinion, is going to be a $200, $300, or $400 billion business by itself. We're not even talking about Facebook platform. We're not even talking about Instagram. Like, that's the most misunderstood, in my opinion.
And other short form video competitors. My view
100%.
is over the next 24 months, there will be a big rebound.
Big rebound.
But they're going to be under a lot of pressure for the next 12 months. And they're not cutting costs fast enough, in my humble opinion.
We'll speak about that, not cutting costs fast enough. But the huge element, we'll hear what all these folks' opinion is, the huge element was, you know, they try to make this sound like it's a bull-bear debate, right? A bull debating a bear. No, that's not the situation. Listen to what those two gentlemen just said. Both of them are expecting a huge rebound for the company from here, right? The second gentleman was talking about, there'll be a lot of volatility over this next 12 months. He doesn't think Facebook, Meta's cutting costs fast enough, right? And that's fair. We'll debate that in just a moment, right? But the fact is, both those gentlemen are extremely bullish on Meta over the coming years. That's what they just said, right? So it makes it sound, in the show, they're trying to make it sound like this one guy's bearish. The second guy, no, he was not bearish. Literally, all you have to do is listen to his words. That man is not bearish on Meta. Listen.
Competitors.
My view is over the next 24 months, there will be a big rebound. But they're going to be under a lot of pressure for the next 12 months.
Yep.
And they're not cutting costs fast enough, in my humble opinion.
And when he says under pressure, he's talking about the management team. He's talking about the company. He's not necessarily talking about the stock's going to be under pressure, right? There's a different kind of pressure cooker effect, but Meta's always under pressure. Like, to me, that's nothing new. Zuckerberg's always under the limelight. It's just the way that company is.
So who is right, Steve?
Both are right.
The stock has bounced pretty aggressively and has closed that gap from earnings where it fell off a cliff. The question is what we've all said on the desk. What is the metaverse? Does Zuckerberg know what the metaverse is? What's the spend going to be on metaverse? That's the growth engine. But what they have to do is talk more about the core. We've had the headwinds from Apple privacy, the headwinds from TikTok. I think the stock has just shook off a lot of that. It was public enemy number one. I think DC has a bunch of other fish to fry right now. I think you could probably move higher here, but definitely needs a rest. I'm actually...
Yeah, why don't you go after United Health? How about that, DC? Okay, United Health. You need help? You need me to send you the info?
On the name, I intend on staying long.
I mean, I think a lot of the downside has been de-risked at this point, and the bull argument is really around valuation, which you can't really argue against, and it's really the tale of two cities. So I look at this balance sheet. You
can't argue against valuation. Like, no one that knows anything about valuation, you can't argue that. You can't argue that Facebook is not a great buy right now. That's just the bottom line. You can't.
Financials, right? And you look at debt, it's like 1 times free cash flow. You look at sequential revenue growth year over year, quarter over quarter. And really, you juxtapose that with what seems to be frivolous and irresponsible spending in the short term. And so really, as long as they can get that capital discipline reined in and actually let us know how they plan on deploying that capital and what are the relevant KPIs to determine whether or not it is actually effective spend, I think that is when the stock really starts to turn around. But the debate is really about...
Two things happen with Meta. Why did that stock fall to insane levels? Like under 100, I never conceived that was even a possibility, right? How did it fall under 100? Two things. The first was this company's growth rates were not what they previously were, right? And so they came off of Rona, insane revenue growth, insane profit growth. Everything was phenomenal, right? And then because of the Apple privacy changes, plus just coming off very tough comps, compounded with the fact that business just wasn't cracked what folks thought it was going to be in 2022, not just for Meta, but for countless companies. And that's why you saw stock price goes down so much. There was a first hit to Meta stock. The second hit was around what that gentleman just brought up there, spend. And they're spending so much on the metaverse. But what has transpired recently over the last few months? Why did that stock really bottom? Zuckerberg said, okay, I hear you, Wall Street. You want to force me into this situation, I'll do it. And what did they do? They cut 11 or 13,000 employees. They announced they're going to, dial back on costs in a significant way. And from my understanding, they pretty much almost have hiring freezes on unless you're like, an A++++ type person. You're not even getting hired at Meta. You have no chance right now, essentially, right? They're like literally only the best of the best they'll even consider now at this point in time at that company. And so what we have now is a company that is going to continue to grow their business over time, but is going to be much more focused on that bottom line and not just the top line, right? You can still invest in the metaverse, but just maybe not at quite the pace they were investing. It was a little ridiculous, right? I mean, if you're growing revenues by 30 or 40%, it's a whole different scenario. But if you're growing revenues at, let's say they grow revenue in 2023 5% or 10%, you can't be spending the way they were spending on the metaverse opportunity.
Whether it's a 12-month period or a 24 to 36-month period, but I think a lot of the downside has been de-risked at this point.
When you refer to frivolous spending, what are you referring to?
I'm talking about billions. What is it? $10 billion on the metaverse?
No. Because some people will say that is
40 billion. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. The degree, the magnitude of the spend is frivolous, or the spending on or metaverse is frivolous.
The rate of the spend. When you compare that to where free cash flow is. To me, is a bit frivolous.
So I think it was October 27th. The stock traded 220 million shares. It traded 23 million, by the way, just to give you some perspective on that today. And so the dynamic when Zuckerberg came out, it was almost a mea culpa. He's not going to do that. And a lot of people said, if he does that, if he reverses field in the metaverse, the stock's going to sell off even more. No, the stock's going to rally. And what Facebook has been doing quietly and not going out there and saying is what every other corporate is doing and trying to get rewarded for, which is to focus on the bottom line, not the top line. So I think it goes higher. I think this is an environment also where they have more.
Okay, a couple things here. There's a lot going on, right? First is listen to how everybody's I would guess you can say commentary has very much changed around Meta, right? No one's really making the argument anymore at this point in time that Meta's not a buy. Every single one of these guys is in agreement that the stock's going up over time, right? And if they believe that, they will be ready to buy the stock if it goes down in any significant way. The problem is it's likely going up a whole lot more over time here, and they'll have to buy at much higher prices, but that's what Wall Street does many times. But I think the other important factor here that a lot of folks don't think about is they think like, oh, this metaverse opportunity, it's either they don't do it at all or they spend like this ridiculous amount of money. There's no like happy medium. And there is absolutely a happy medium. They don't have to spend nearly as aggressive. They can still go after this metaverse opportunity and spend several $billion a year on this opportunity, which is an insane amount of money and an insane amount of R&D, and still put themselves in the best position to win the metaverse long term, which is a huge opportunity, right? But there's a big difference between spending a few billion and, let's say, spending 10 billion or 20 billion on that opportunity each year. And so I think that's an important factor that a lot of people don't think about. And they assumed like, oh, if Zuckerberg cuts his spending, that means they're giving up on the metaverse. No, it doesn't work like that at all. Sometimes you actually just have to let technology catch up to you a bit, right? That's sometimes what you have to let happen, right? I think the next metaverse headset is going to be by far and away the most popular ever, in my personal opinion, and that will be the one that really kicks off volumes in a much more significant way when they do launch that, and probably will launch it, I'd guess, at some point this year. If they don't launch it this year, then it'll be in 2024. And if they don't launch it this year, it's probably only because the consumer is really weak.
Ammunition and noise around what they need to do. Everyone else is cutting costs. This is what they need to do. The stock will be rewarded. Their core business, not so sexy, not growing. 2.2 billion people in terms of that platform. It goes higher.
They've pivoted to a business that they can't explain and nobody understands, which is problematic. To Bonwin's point, spending money hand over fist doing it. That's not good. Stocks rallied 60% since the level Tim talked about, which is great. Problem is, this level is
what that gentleman just said there, very important, because this is what's going to be important for the executives and the management team to get these sorts of folks to understand we didn't pivot our business. He's acting like they pivoted their business to metaverse. No, they didn't. Okay? They have three of the biggest platforms in the entire world: Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. They didn't magically pivot their business and say, we don't care about WhatsApp, we don't care about Instagram, we don't care about Facebook anymore. We only care about like the metaverse. No, that never happened. So it's just important that Zuckerberg and the executives over this next few quarters get it through, gentlemen like this head, that no, we didn't pivot our business. We're just investing in rather aggressively against this huge long-term opportunity we see here, right?
Bottomed out from, if you go back and look, in March of 2020. So into earnings, I believe, on the first, on a backdrop where ad spend continues to go down, I think you're actually looking for a place to take profits rather than add to longs.
So he has a similar approach to what a lot of folks had going into the Netflix earnings, right? Which is like, you know, Netflix is going to have to go down. It's climbed a lot, right? And that his thought process is very similar to that. And I just, you know, it's all a possibility. And once again, I hope the stock goes down. I hope it tanks 10% on earnings or something, right? 20%, I don't really care. Like, give me as many shares as cheap as possible. I don't care. Send it down 50%. But the problem is, it's very unrealistic now at this point in time. The valuation is way too compelling, and you have way too many people ready to buy that stock up and snag it up at this point in time. Now that they know costs are coming down for this business and will come down substantially in 23, while they get the business back on the right trail. And also, Instagram Reels has been taken off like a beast over the past 6 months, and that's going to start to be reflected in the business in a very significant way, right? And so all their metrics, especially on the Instagram side, are going to look very, very well. I think the Facebook side will be pretty decent as well, right? And WhatsApp, I think folks in the United States are going to finally start to understand and respect like how big WhatsApp is. And like just myself personally, just in the past like couple months, I've been part of a few new WhatsApp groups and things like that, right? By the way, don't fall for the people in the YouTube comments that say to text some WhatsApp number, okay? Not that type of stuff, right? But like when I went to a resort, you would message the butler through essentially WhatsApp, and through a new program, through something for my kids, essentially, they're in a WhatsApp group as well, right? So that's something I'm seeing more and more play out in the United States, and now start to like hit these folks and these Wall Street folks like, oh wow, this WhatsApp thing, we heard it had 1 billion or 2 billion users or whatever, but we didn't really understand it, and now we're actually using it, so now we're starting to get it, right? And sometimes it just takes that moment of like, aha. They didn't really get Tesla at first because Tesla was really big on the West Coast and hardly anybody on the East Coast even had it. Then when Tesla started to expand and even started to get on the East Coast, then a lot of these Wall Streeters started to respect it and started to understand it and be like, oh, wow, yeah, they are doing something here. Like, look at these cars, right? For us on the West Coast, we kind of had an early advantage because we would see more and more Teslas on the road and things like that. So, yeah, Meta, stealing money, man. I mean, that's the bottom line with that stock. Great balance sheet. Income statement that's going to improve massively in 2023 and 2024, in my opinion. You know, the forward P is just way too low on that company, and I think you got one of the best teams, some of the best talent in the world at that company, and incredible. Like, growth is not done with Meta. It's not done anytime soon, to be quite frank. And the metaverse opportunity, if they win that, like, that's the biggest opportunity we've ever seen, in my opinion. And so anyways, that's my opinion on that. Much love as always. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for being subscribed. Don't forget, check out the Patreon. It's only $10 and you get to see all the stocks I'm going to buy there tomorrow, as well as all future Fridays as well. Appreciate y'all. Much love and have a great day.